defeat over at Craven Cottage, and on a historical day where it seems like Villa will be saying goodbye to Steven Gerrard, at least you can say that he lasted longer than Liz Truss. Yeah. This is Talk of the Trinity.
The intro was recorded last night. This part of the episode is recorded this morning, Friday the 21st of October, and you'll soon realise that Baz recorded his review and preview last night as well. So there's a bit of luxury for me in my laziness to not record straight away, and we know that there's a lot of amazing Aston Villa podcasts out there who have reactionary episodes straight away in regards to events at Villa Park, matches, sackings, player signings. Yet regrettably, we aren't always able to do that, though that may work in our favour this time. We're not going to catch up again until after Brentford, and it will be at that point that we'll really be able to evaluate and see what's needed. We'll have had the chance to see Thomas Frank firsthand, one of the names that are in the hat, but we'll talk a little bit more about him and his Brentford team later on. At the moment, let's talk about the task at hand, and if any performance is going to get you fired, it's that performance away at Fulham. It was inept. It lacked any drive, any passion. There were a few players there who I thought played well. I thought Mings was commanding at the back. The block on the line was fantastic. Is it ironic that it was his own goal that finished the career of Steven Gerrard? Well, it didn't finish the career, but it was the last real moment that anybody will remember. Esri Konsa, not a right back, better at centre back. Bednarak did well also. And I actually thought that Dougie Luiz was playing really well until he planted one on Mitrovic. It was something that happened out of frustration. It was ridiculous. The way in which we were as a team, we just did not seem that bothered. Watkins, particularly out on the left wing, didn't seem too bothered. He didn't chase everything down, which you'd expect from him. Danny Ings and Leon Bailey couldn't decide which foot to shoot with whenever they got the ball. They were right foot, left foot, and then would get tackled. The Fulham defence hardly had anything to do. Our best efforts really was the John McGinn pile driver, and also when Ollie Watkins managed to somehow fumble his way around Bernd Leno. And when that's happening, you want to see your manager be proactive, and he brought Brandia on, fair play. But Archer should have come on a lot sooner. Coutinho should have come on as well to try and create some spark to drop in between those gaps, because the Fulham defence, as I say, weren't troubled. You've got players playing in the pockets, then they're going to pull the back line out, they're going to pull the midfield out, they're going to create spaces around the pitch, and it's just something that we've not been able to do. So with attacking players like that, we need a manager who will show his faith in them and will get them playing for 90 minutes at a time, get them back up to scratch, get them back up to speed and pushing us further up the league, because it's those players playing at 100% that are going to be the biggest help. You know, it's... We made the sub of Leander Dendoncker, and he's not had the greatest start coming to the Villa, neither has Bednarak, and you do very much wonder whether they were Gerrard signings or whether they were names that were pulled out of a hat or were at the very bottom of a shortlist of players that we weren't able to get, or they were just those that were available when the Villa board realised that Gerrard was in a bit of trouble come the end of the transfer window. Purslow obviously wanted to keep him on, and there's rumours that Suarez was not happy last night, leaving early the director's box because he was unhappy with what he'd seen after Douglas Luiz's red card. And you know, the owners have ploughed a lot of money into this club. They've shown their ambition, and they have every right to get rid of a manager. It's a shame in the sense that, you know, he did very well at Rangers. Yes, it's the Scottish League, but he still did very well. I think in hindsight, the Villa job was too big for him straight away. I'm not saying that we're a bigger club than Rangers at all. I'm saying that coming into this league, trying to get into those top 8 positions, that was too big for him. He should have gone to a top championship club. A championship club who had just been relegated from the Premier League. Burnley may have been good for him, though. They'll be glad that they've got Vincent Kompany. There's a name for you, Villa fans. But ultimately, it just didn't work out. I think he lost the players' respect a lot with the Mings debacle, and we've freezing out certain players. Now, Sanson and Gilbert have been frozen out, and he's not the first manager to do that. So you sort of question their attitude and commitment to the cause. But who knows? Unless you're there, unless you're in the group, it's all speculation. And there's obviously speculation over who the next Villa manager will be. Now, I'll mention a couple of names later on. We put some names on Twitter for you as well. But before we do that, let's hear from Baz about what he thought of the Fulham game. I mean, for me, as I say, it was inept. It was a fantastic first goal by Reid, but then we self-destructed. And to think the last time we were there, we beat them 3-0. You know, it's not a good trend to be setting. Top team in the Midlands because all the others are doing so poorly, but no one wants to be near this end of the table. We look onwards, we look upwards, onwards and upwards. We have hope. But before that, we have Baz with his Fulham review.
Thanks, Will. And as Mr. Trinity has recorded his thoughts on the Fulham game in the cool light of day, after having had the opportunity to ponder, to reflect, to process his thoughts, I am coming to you probably about 20 minutes after full time at Craven Cottage due to what I'll call scheduling conflicts before the Brentford game, meaning that I have to get mine out of the way as soon as the whistle. You know, I was getting off the field quicker than Gerrard to get myself into the chair to record. And what to say about that game in terms of you've got a red card, an own goal, penalty that should have been saved, very unlucky penalty in the first place. So you could say, from a manager perspective, oh, you don't send your players out to headbutt someone, or, you know, to get fooled, really. Mitrovic, you know what you're going to get. You saw him. You should have seen it coming. Luiz didn't. Stupid. Gerrard unlucky for all those 3. Nah, not having a bit of it, because we were dreadful long before those incidents happened in the first half. Dreadful in terms of, if you're going to predict one change, if we are going to make one change, we did talk about consistency in the preview episode, but if you're going to pick one change to make, Matty Cash going out so Konza could play a right back would not have been there. And I know there was talk in the pre-match build-up by Gerrard about how managing Cash coming back from an injury, 3 games in a week, you don't play Endry Konza at right back when you need a result. We knew that was where Fulham liked to play. They targeted that flank, the one their left-hand side, our right-hand side, absolutely relentlessly in that first half. And that was stupidity in that managerial decision in terms of, if you think Cash is not fit, get a threshold in the game first. Get him through the first 60 minutes. He was fit enough for 45 coming on at half-time. You know, chasing a game which we had let in via the, well, I say back door, it's by the front door in terms of that change. Absolutely. No, not for me. And also what, no for me, that first half performance, what was one of the key things that you knew was going to happen in that first 10-15 minutes, Fulham were going to come at us. They were going to press high up the pitch, had to be ready. Absolutely were not. They looked like in that first 20 minutes, and even for quite a bit of the rest of the game when they went down to 10 men, when we went down to 10 men, like they were Brazil in a way. They were good Brazil, not bad Brazil, in the way that they were just passing it around us. And in terms of, I have generally no idea what we've been doing in the last 4 days. And again, I know Gerrard wouldn't have said go out and play absolutely terribly, but I think in terms of there has to come a stage whereby you can't purely blame the players for that. I mean, in terms of, there has to be an element of responsibility in terms of shape, organisation. We were saying keep the same shape just to get some consistency. That didn't work in terms of creativity, non-existent in that team. Bailey, we've been saying we're hoping getting into some form. Dreadful again. Ings, if you don't create chances for him, you're not going to do it. And I think there was a thought in terms of consistency in the selection might actually have endangered some more kind of getting to know each other, bit of creativity. Just didn't happen. And I think in terms of the second half, in terms of what happened, what summed it up even before those 3 goals, well, the 3 instants, we were already 1 down at half time. If you need unfortunate reminding, first 2 minutes of the game, well, the restart in that second half, 2 absolutely dreadful passes straight out of play from the back. Absolutely clueless. And in terms of the players, didn't look like they knew what to do. There was no, I don't know what plan A was. There was certainly no plan B. And then you get stuck in the hokey cokey at 2 down, taking the striker off to shore it up when Dendonka comes on. Then you throw Cameron Archer on when we're 3-0 down. It was just absolutely appalling, kind of all round, really. And a couple of chances we had, Watkins did what he's been doing most of the season and not hit the target. But in terms of individual players, no one's really coming out with credit. I mean, summed up by the fact Martinez had a decent first half and then decided to hit the ball into his own net for the penalty, although he guessed the right way. So we'll give him credit. I don't remember Bednarak having to do too much before he got hooked. So by that logic, I'm going to say he wasn't terrible. But Ming's own goal, wouldn't it be something if that was the last goal of the Steven Gerrard era? And I wasn't at the ground watching the game on TV, so it's not always 100% accurate reflection of kind of the crowd and what's going on. But from what I could hear through the TV, I think we have to give some credit to the Villa fans tonight. They got behind the team as much as they could, and it was only when the ineptitude began to really kind of roll up that some of their feelings began to come out in terms of Gerrard and some of the decisions that were made and what they were thinking about him. In terms of my preview before the game was, you cannot go to Fulham and sit back and expect to get a result. We didn't. We got smacked. Then we shot ourselves in the foot a few times, then probably the kneecaps, just to make sure that it will kill any hope of getting a result. And I think that at time, as I said, at time recording, just full time, but Mr. Trinity will be able to confirm it. I don't see any way back for Gerrard. I really don't. I think in terms of, we're outside the relegation zone on goals scored. 2 wins in 11 games. We've scored 1 goal in 4 games. We could play for 4 weeks and not score. You're looking in terms of the game tonight, which is going on, started a little later time, Leicester, Leeds. Leeds looked dreadful in terms of that game, losing, not looking like they are going to, at time recording, get a result 2 down with 20 minutes to go. They're on the same number of points as Villa. Dreadful. You're looking at Forest, bottom of the league. Dreadful. The two teams we beat, 15th, 14th. West Ham are 13th, lost. Bournemouth 12th, lost. Palace 11th, lost. Fulham 9th, lost. In terms of, we got Brentford 10th. I think you can see on Sunday, you can see a pattern. In terms of, you're looking, yes, we played Man City and got a point. Chelsea, yeah, but in terms of, I think we'd said all along, these first 10, 11 games, 12 games, were going to be determinative of what Villa are going to do this season. 2 wins out of 11. I can't compare. Well, in terms of, I'll compare this. The feeling I had at full time was similar to the feeling Lambert's last game when we lost 2-0 away at Hull, and we're in the relegation zone, having scored, I think, about 12 goals all season to that point. Looked, we would have gone down under Lambert if we hadn't sacked him at the time we did. In terms of, are we going to go down if we don't sack Gerrard? Bit early to tell in the season, but for me, there's no way back. Unfortunately, I've been saying it for the last few weeks. Draws against Leeds and Forest are not the results that get confidence that this is the man who's taken us in the right direction the board want Europe, regardless of whether you think that's a realistic ambition. That's what the board want. That's why we got rid of Dean Smith, because the board didn't think it was going to get us to Europe. Based on what's happened this season and last season, I think you're in the realms, unfortunately, if you're the board, I think you're in the realms of delusion if you think that this team, playing the way we're playing, is getting into Europe. And it is a bit like the events that are going on in the country, in terms of you're just expecting to turn on the news and see another departure. And for me, at time recording on Thursday night, I am expecting, by the time this episode goes out, for Gerrard to have gone. But we will see what happens. And speaking of, we will see what happens, that does bring me to my Sunday preview of the game at Brentford. We're at home to Brentford, 2:00 Villa Park. And it's very difficult to preview it in this time, because I think so much is going to depend on what Villa do in the next 24 hours off the field. But trying to bring matters to on the field and a discussion about our visitors, Brentford, they've done all right in terms of this season. I think inconsistent, you may say, in terms of, obviously, the highlight early on, dismantling Man United 4-0. They beat Leeds 5-2 since then. Haven't quite maybe hit the heights. Bit inconsistent. They got a good result against Chelsea, 0-0, time recording. Their last game on Wednesday nights. Ivan Toney, time recording, World Cup squad not announced, but you'd have to think he's in a good prospect of getting into the England squad for the World Cup. And yeah, they're slowly, quietly going along with their business, really. As I mentioned earlier, 10th in the table at time recording, goal difference of +1, 14 points, 5 points off the drop at time recording, 5 points off 5th at time recording. So fairly steady in terms of what they're doing. And Thomas Frank, doing a decent job. So in terms of what Villa are going to be doing on Sunday, that is going to depend on who is in charge, I think, frankly. But I think regardless of who is in charge, changes are going to need to be made, unfortunately, in terms of advocating consistency, beginning to get into the mind of Steven Gerrard in terms of just having to make some changes. But evident that we need some creativity. Play Bundia. He looks, relatively speaking, looks okay. When he came on against Fulham, not saying very much. If Archer's fit, again, I'll keep banging that drum. He's got to play. in terms of beyond that, unfortunately, we sold most of our wingers in the summer, but you could make a case for changing 9-10 of the team from the Fulham lineup, and it's obviously Dougie Luiz is going to be suspended. So who do you look to bring in? Does Dendoncker get the start? Sanson, does he play? I mean, in terms of if we do have a new manager in charge, does Gilbert play at fullback? Sanson, the Camber. I mean, it really is just throwing names out of a hat. Currently at the moment, and it's you're probably telling them I'm a bit struggling to get the words out in terms of do you play Chambers? I mean, it's one, is Digne going to be fit? Time recording, we don't know. Do you play him even if he is fit, having been out for the period of time that he is? Do you bring him in gradually? I mean, it doesn't get easy after the Brentford game, Newcastle away, Man United at home, and then a trip to Brighton to finish off the Premier League festivities before the World Cup. But yeah, it's in terms of this shape, this team, maybe you are throwing darts at this time. I mean, I played Dendoncker, just instead of Luis, similar, can sit back a bit and just to see what we got, because in terms of we don't know what we got. He's been on the field a few times. I don't remember him really touching the ball. I mean, he has touched the ball, but in terms of I don't remember putting in crunching tackles. I don't remember making massive runs going forward. In terms of do you take Ramsey out the team, give him a bit of a rest, look to bring him on as a sub in the second half if you need a bit of pace. You can advocate that, and I think that is you could advocate absolutely anything in terms of and who's to say you wouldn't be right, in terms of, because nothing we've done so far this season is right, and I think we are at the stage whereby the setup that we go depends who's in charge. I think in terms of if we have caretakers in charge, we maybe go a bit more attacking, a bit more free flowing. If Gerrard's in charge, I think we'll go defensive, just to try and solidify the midfield some more. And that brings me to a prediction. And in a first for the podcast, I'm actually going to make two. I'm going to make two predictions, because I think it's going to depend on who's in charge, as I said on Sunday. And at time recording Thursday night, Gerrard is still in charge, but I can't guarantee they will be in charge on Sunday. So if Steven Gerrard is still in charge against a Brentford game, I think we'll lose. I think it'll be 2-0 Brentford. And that definitely will be the end of Gerrard. If Gerrard is not in charge, I think it'll be a draw. I think it'll be 1-1. I'm getting my steady, stable 1-1 out of the cupboard once more. If I keep saying it, we'll eventually get that draw.
Now, as previously mentioned and not alluded to there by Baz, could have been, we've not listened back, I'm recording the morning after the night before, so looking at Brentford in a bit of a different light to Baz maybe. First of all is the question of who will be in charge. From what I can see, there's no mention of backroom staff going. I could be wrong. So will it be Neil Critchley that takes over, or will it be somebody like an Ashley Young that's in charge of the team? I said a couple of weeks ago, Ashley Young's Claret and Blue Army, caretaker charge. However, that would be difficult for him, with him currently playing in the team as well. So we need some assistance from somebody on the sideline. Danks and McPhee? No, they've not done anything since they've come here. We've not pushed on. We haven't replaced Richard O'Kelly and John Terry. John Terry Dido, there's another name. Will they gamble again? I don't think they will. Maybe as an assistant. Who knows? But amongst the names that are being said, amongst the Pochettinos, amongst the Tuchels, the Emerys, the Gallardos, the Dyches as well, the Beals, And all these names conjure up different thoughts, feelings, emotions, and that's not to mention maybe some of the others who may be available as well, like Lopetegui, Bruno Lage, don't think we go over him, Brendan Rodgers, Jose Mourinho, maybe, Ruud van Nistelrooy. I'm just saying names now, aren't I? But the one that is rather exciting is based in West London, and his West London team are coming to Villa Park, and that's Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank has been fantastic since taking over at Brentford, always getting the better of us. And he was a big part of the Dean Smith coaching team there. He's took like a duck to water to coaching, and especially in getting up to the Premier League. They're fluid with the styles that they play, the players that they brought in as well. There's some right battlers in there. I mean, not many teams would have gone after Pontus Jansson and Ben Mee when they're a Premier League club, and he's gone after them, and they've done very well. They've attracted Damsgaard in the summer, which is a very big signing, and used him in a limited capacity. Whether that's due to injury or whatnot, I don't have the knowledge to that. I apologise to any Villa or Brentford fans who are expecting me to have a lot of Damsgaard knowledge. Now, with that said, they've also got Norsgaard, who's had a great start to the season, and they have Wissa up front, along with Ivan Toney, who has been a fantastic player for Brentford, not just because of his extraordinary penalties, but the type of player he is, the type of goals he scored. And we know that all too well from the game at Villa Park last year, where he scored in front of the Holt end with that movement. Not your typical number 9, more of a 10 that drops that little bit deeper, more maybe a Danny Ings type of striker, or the type of striker that Danny Ings would like to be at the moment in a front two. Brentford, their style of football as well, it's attractive, it's attacking, they're on the front foot with the likes of Hickey and Henry being able to get forward. They've got Raya in goal, who's been fantastic since coming up into the Premier League, especially after the Fulham playoff final defeat. Was I worried about Brentford prior to Gerrard sacking? Yes. Am I worried about Brentford now? Yes. Do I think the Villa fans will play a big part in this getting behind the team? I do. I really do. And it's hard to say really what we would expect from a formation, from players, what we expect anybody to do when they come in and play against Brentford, apart from ask the players to be positive, get on the front foot and try and create. Now, formations are always something that need a lot of work on. There was rumours that 3 at the back was being tried, and we certainly thought it was going to be 3 at the back last night when we saw the team news, but it didn't turn out to be. So you wonder whether that could be an option. Is that too negative at home? Yeah, it is, unless you've got a style of play, and that style of play is getting you results. We could potentially play the 4-3-3, though I'd like us to see. I'd like to see us play a 4-2-3-1. And for that to work, you would have Matty Cash at right back. You'd have Konsa and Mings in the centre, Young at left back, Martinez in goal. Do you move the captaincy over to one of Mings or Martinez? I certainly would at the moment. Baz won't listen to this, so that's fine. He can find out next time on the next programme. The 2 centre midfielders, well, you've got to wonder whether it's time to give a couple of people a chance or whether you go with what you've got already at the moment. So, Morgan Sanson, bring him in, put him in there, give him the opportunity to show whoever's going to come in that he knows how to play football. Another just central midfielder, well, I'd probably go for John McGinn at the moment. Again, he's not had the best of times over the last year. He's picked up a bit recently. He tried against Fulham. He tried to drive forward, but he's not the John McGinn that was with Jack Grealish in the Championship. You know, the ankle injury probably did affect him a little bit more than anybody ever thought. A free behind the striker then, and for me, the striker, I I'm changing my mind at the moment. I would have Cameron Archer up front. You know, I said in the last one I put him on the left wing where he doesn't have all of the responsibility, and I would be inclined to do that. But I'd put him up front, give him the opportunity. Then Buendia, Coutinho and JJ Ramsey behind him, playing within those three, being a bit more fluid, being able to get on the ball, being able to create, drive with it, to get the long shots off. We know what Coutinho can be like, and we just need to find that spark again and hope that whoever comes in can. You know, I'm very hopeful that Pochettino will come, and I think that he'd work wonders for Coutinho and for Buendia as well, who also needs to find that spark to be able to start and play consistently and regularly, because he's very much a bench warmer at the moment, and for the money we paid for him, you want him starting. JJ Ramsey has been one of the better stories of the season of the last few years since Dean Smith brought him into the team at the expense of Conor Hourihane. So with his drive and with him being able to nurture Archer as well, you'd hope that we can create some attacking threat. Now, looking at the scores, looking at the predictions, I'm going to go with a 1-1. A hopeful 1-1 draw. I think whoever it is, will G the players up enough, and so will the crowd, and it will see us score our goal through Cam Archer. But Brentford are a very good team at the moment, and they'll find a way to equalise against us. And then that leads you on to, do we get a manager in before the next game? And I wonder whether Villa will just sit back, really evaluate their options and look to appoint somebody in the World Cup break, though that's quite a few games away. Brentford, Newcastle, 2 Man United and Brighton. That's a long time to go without a manager. I know Wolves are doing it at the moment, and Wolves have said that they're going to keep this bloke in charge until 2023. Though I'd hope that we act a bit quicker, especially with the managers that are available. The World Cup moving across may be a good time, because you can get to know your team, especially a team like Villa who won't have too many players at the World Cup. Scout and see what's needed to come in ahead of that January transfer window, which is going to be open pretty much straight after we return with our Boxing Day clash against Liverpool. Look back at the videos, look to see what we've done, look to see if we can improve, look to implement your style of play. For me, as I say, my number one would be Pochettino. But if we could get Thomas Frank, I'd be very happy with that as well. Damn you, Baz, because it was you who first started mentioning him a year ago. But let's see what happens. The most important thing is that we stick behind the team, we stick behind the players, we stick behind the club, because it's the club who we support ultimately, and we have to have faith that the people at the top will make the right decision. Thank you, as always, for listening. Thank you for your tweets, your retweets, your likes on Twitter. Thank you for listening and watching on YouTube. I know you don't always get to see our beautiful faces, but believe me, when we record first thing in the morning, that's probably a blessing. It's probably a blessing most of the time anyway. But until next time, as always, Baz is Villa till he dies. I'm Villa till I die. Let's hope that Purslow, Lang, Suarez and Edens have written down all the names, cut them out, put them in the hat, and that they're just putting their hands in and twiddling the paper around before unveiling the Aston Villa manager who's going to take us back to the top. This was Talk of the Trinity. Thank you for listening. Cheers to her. Thank you very much. Up the Villa.